Hello again. So this is the last of the dependent samples t-test videos. I'm going to talk about how to report this in APA style notation. So the notation for APA style is just like the independent samples t-test. We report the t statistic as a lowercase t. It's italicized. We have degrees of freedom in parentheses, and then we say that it equals, and then the t score. We then include the p-value. The p itself is lowercase and italicized. We report the p-value. And this is where you might see some variation. So I know I've mentioned this in other videos, but sometimes people prefer to just say greater than 0.05 or less than 0.05 or whatever the alpha is. They'll say greater than or less than. I personally don't like that. I want you to report the value for my classes. So I want you to say, if the p-value is 0.07, just say p equals 0.07. If it's super tiny, then you can say P is less than 0.001 or P is less than 0.01. And if it's, just barely less than, if it's just barely less than 0.05. So if you're Pedro Pascal and it's 0.0499, that is statistically significant. It is less than 0.05, barely. You could either write that as P is less than 0.05, or you could say P is equal to 0.0499. The thing though is that in APA style, you typically want to use the same number of numbers after the decimal. So you just want to be consistent with that. Next, you're going to report the confidence intervals. This is the 95% confidence interval. We'll put our lower boundary here, and then we'll do a comma, and then our upper boundary. And then our last part is that we report the Cohen's d effect size. So it's a quick summary using notation and statistics to talk about what we found. Your next step is that you then take that information and apply it to what we found. So here I've written this out already, but I put, again, you can see I have this t statistic. And so this t value goes right here. So we're saying this is our t, this is the type of test. And then I put the actual t statistic here, and it's negative, so I put negative. And then this is our degrees of freedom. So we write that degrees of freedom in there. You're just following that format. P equals 0.04. So again, I'm just reporting my specific p value. And then that way, another person can look at this and say, oh, the P is less than 0.05. They rejected the null hypothesis. It's statistically significant. This is our confidence interval. And it went to negative infinity. So I put negative infinity sign. You could put infinity. It just means that it's the lowest possible negative difference. And then our upper boundary is this negative 0.64. And then in our last part, we have our Cohen's d here. And so this is our effect size. You should always report the effect size. It adds context to what you found. And then use the same format that we've been using for other tests. So we're reporting the type of test. So we're doing a paired samples t-test. You can call it a dependent samples t-test, whatever your preference is. So this is when we're writing it as a paragraph in APA style, this is like your results section. You'll have a section that you just report this information. And then we're just going to say what we found. So we found the difference in scores on the statistics competency test. So use the name of the test if you have it. Before the meme intervention. So then I'm going to talk about for before the meme intervention, what was the mean? So we've got the mean and we've got the standard deviation. And these are italicized, not the numbers, just the M and the SD for mean and standard deviation. And then we're going to talk about to after the meme intervention. And so again, we're going to report that information here. And then we're going to say that it significantly increased from before to after. Again, you can use different language. This is just an example of how you could write this out. I did specifically say significantly increased because I think that's helpful to have in there, even with this written out where somebody could look at it and say, oh, significant. I think it's good to specifically state it. And then I reported the mean difference. You don't have to do that, but I think it's helpful. So then we have a comma, and then our notation that we have up here, I just plug that right in here. So this is our notation. Has all that information. You could then go on to talk about that the difference between groups is quite small, so it probably doesn't matter. But this is the important part. This is the part where there's actually like requirements that you submit this for APA style, that you be specific enough with your statistics. But then you might talk about, we rejected the null hypothesis. This is evidence that scores increased after the meme intervention, and this might be real. And however, we found a very small effect size, so who cares? So that's something that you could continue to write about. But this is kind of your basic format that you would want to make sure to include. So that's it on dependent samples t-tests, and I will see you soon.